Oh, yikes, bro. This is pure torture porn. Bro, roll your gacha, quick. Yeah, you get him, boy. You rip their guts out. Okay, anyway, first things first, we do gotta deal with the elephant in the room. We got the spirit guardian now. I'm sure she got big tatas to replace the elf that we didn't get. Yeah? You know, I walked into this Backstabbed Backwater Dungeon level 9,000. The title is a goddamn mouthful. But I walked in thinking it was going to be a pretty fun time. I heard good things, and honestly, it just sounded like a fun revenge fantasy story with probably some pretty great production from JC's staff. And I leave episode 1 giddy as hell. I feel like a boy on Christmas morning opening up my favorite presents. Do I expect it to have the greatest writing I've ever seen? Probably not, but do I expect it to be surprisingly competent in what it wants to be? Actually, yeah. So, the premise is basically, MC has an ability which is gacha pulls. So he can roll unlimited amounts, but seemingly his ability is always pretty shit. Like, he's rolling rotten apples or bent forks, like, he's not really great. So the randomness, alright, he's like, okay, so he's not going to be completely overpowered. And then the punchline being that the more mana he's surrounded by, the better his odds. Like, they're really making it feel like a mobile game. It's like he's like, okay, so if he gets teleported into the depths of a dungeon, he probably has like a 30% boost, like he's in an event for like, okay, just keep using mom's credit card, you're really gonna get that waifu you want, I promise you. So, he gets recruited by this party, and there's like, I don't remember how many races, but let's just say there's like 9 races or whatever, and they're like, hey, you're the last one we need, we'll make a party, and yeah, they betray him. And seemingly there's some plot line about how they're trying to find the maestro, and there's a head honcho. We don't know all the ifs, ands, and buts about this, but like, ultimately, yeah, they try to kill him, and then he gets teleported accidentally. And that's when we summon Waifu, who's like, I will slaughter them all for you. The thing that I think really tied it all together is I've seen a lot of revenge stories. And usually if the guy's like, hey, I've been wronged, I'm gonna go slaughter them, he comes across really cold and ruthless, like, right from the beginning. Where this kid's like, no, no, no. I'm not gonna be noble about this. I'm not gonna say, hey, you wanna kill all those that wronged me? We don't do that, we're human. No, he says, I wanna do it. I'm gonna be the one who gets strong and kills them. But he doesn't come across as a psycho. Like, could he become that over time? 100%. The more you kill, the more you do, that personality and innocence will eventually fade. But by starting the show off by having a guy be like, you know, I started off as a pretty nice guy, and you unleashed the beast, but I'm not just currently gonna say F everyone else. He could get there, but he's not starting like that. That's what makes it really interesting. And I gotta admit, production on point, the main character, surprisingly enjoyable. He's innocent and naive, but you know, it'll be interesting to see how he evolves, especially if that opening's any indication. That man's gonna build a goddamn army. Also, his waifu, Mei, who basically is like, I'm level 9,999, let me slaughter your enemies for you, master. Super cool, but really the big punchline for me is how the gacha mechanic works, and the more mana he's surrounded by, potentially the better, you know, ultimately pulls he'll get. So, gonna be a really good time, and I'm pretty excited. Of course, drop a like on this video, helps show support, subscribe if you're new around here, and Patrons where you catch my full live reactions, all this and more if you also want to help fund the channel and videos just like the one you're watching. So, one of my more anticipated ones, for sure. I like JC staff, I like these types of anime, and to be honest, as much as people like to clown on the shows with the ridiculously long names, they do their job. There's like literally been articles about it in Japan that like, hey, as obnoxious as some titles are, it literally is a proven effective strategy, because the more descriptive your name is in the title, the more your thing will sell, because ultimately they don't have to read a synopsis on the back. And to be honest, Backstabbed in a Backwater Dungeon, revenge story. Level 9,000 gacha? What the hell? Like, gacha, you don't see gacha abilities really in anime. And to be honest, the show did exactly what I wanted, and the small things it did a little extra are just kind of like the cherry on top. I walked in thinking I knew what to expect from this show, and it pretty much delivered that. But they did add a couple extra bells and whistles. The concept of, like, the maestro or whatever, and how, like, seemingly the concept is the party that screwed him over. They bring in a member that there must be something about an ability that's maybe a little too... Because here's the thing, like, they said that they kept him around longer than they would have liked. And it seems like, given that there's a conceal on his ability, that unless you're a certain level, you're not going to be able to see how good his ability actually is. So it probably took them a bit to really evaluate that his ability was useless, and that's when they ultimately decided to get rid of him. But they're looking for a maestro. It's probably someone who has the secret ability that can get them where they want to go, and their boss overhead is the reason this whole system happens. Most likely, he is what they were looking for. They just had no idea because none of them is strong enough to properly examine and evaluate his abilities. So pretty cool there. The gacha roll, I figured it was just going to be random. And I figure it would have been through the power of plot convenience, he rolls Excalibur or whoever else he's going to roll, right? No. The idea that when we saw him roll at the start of the episode, he did a bent fork, a rotten apple, and there was something else. Seemingly there wasn't a lot of mana around him, so his roll odds were probably like 0.00001% chance of even a rare pull. But in a dungeon, when he's just fighting normal monsters, probably got a little better odds. But if he got, because basically the thing that teleported him was a trap, and it seemingly threw him into the deepest pits against a boss. There's going to be a lot of mana down there, and yeah, randomness, luckiness, but dude, if I'm going by casino logic, if you've been playing the slots your whole life, eventually there's going to be a payout, and if you're getting a few stat boosts because you're surrounded by mana, I believe he pulled the waifu there. What did he pull at the end? I have no idea. I assume it's a weapon of some sort. But either way, a lot of cool ideas. Like, there's definitely going to be people who will see this and be like, oh, revenge story. Oh, character with waifu. Like, there's going to be a lot of surface level complaints. And hey, not everything's going to be for everyone. But is this a completely traditional revenge story? Currently, no. The MC's reaction of, I'm going to slaughter them, initially starts off as you would expect for a revenge MC. But his idea of, like, not immediately becoming edgy about it, but being like, these bitches are gonna die. But anyway, let's carry on. I do expect he'll be more cold as it progresses, and I assume the way it will work is the more lives he takes and the more he gets screwed over by the world. But that's a natural transition. Not to say, like, getting stabbed in the back and, you know, immediately hating everyone can't be realistic, but that's what all these authors do. So immediately, they do help separate the MC. The MC's ability, really different, and also the reason for betrayal. As much as you're like, oh, here's these stereotypical evil bastards, but they're seemingly doing it to find a certain ability because their boss wants it. It is more interesting than just, we get the thrill of stabbing you in the back, you know what I mean? So overall, great first episode. I could easily see this being one of my personal favorites of the season. I had a lot of people in my comment sections over the week saying, oh, this is going to be a show that speaks to you. Yeah, 100%. And given that we're running low on Don Machi content to adapt, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if JC staff makes this their new flagship series if it does well enough. Great fucking episode, awesome as hell. Just please, for the love of God, don't be influenced by this. The gacha rolls are rigged. Leave your mom's credit card on the table, damn it. Let me know what you thought of the first episode down below. Whether if you're a source reader or anime only just like me, what did you think of episode 1? Let me know. Drop a like, show your support, subscribe if you're new around here. Patreon is, of course, to catch my full live reactions to all this and more. Like, hey, I also like to give video shoutouts to my patrons. So today we got Holmes, Mira Vasiri, XY1000, Chris, Cody Tiffany, Wares, Enduck, and we also have Catherine Halverson. So I appreciate the support. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.